I'm Billy S, and today we're ranking the bosses of MIO Memories in Orbit, a brand new Metroidvania that has captured the hearts of everyone that played it, including myself. My full live streamed experience with the game is here on YouTube in the live tab of my channel page, in case any of you are curious about the bosses that you see in today's video, and you want to see the game in context. If you're a subscriber, please comment and leave a like for the algorithm. I kinda suspect this video might be a bit more niche, and that would go a long way. If you're not subscribed though, I just hope you enjoy. So, let's begin the ranking with... At number 18, we have Flora, Sentient Pearl Trap, found in the depths of the feral undergrowth. This was initially a boss I missed on my first run through the area, wrapping around to Haven without ever encountering it. This plant-like creature stays on the right side of the arena, and you have to attack its head to deal damage while it tries to slam you and drag you with its red spiky vines. Most of the fight sees you approaching, attacking, then using the hairpin on the blue crystal in the middle of the arena to dash back to the safety of the left side. The boss coats the floor right beneath it with sludge at half health, but with how air combat keeps you in place when you attack, you have more than enough time to damage the boss, and then reposition to hairpin to safety even with the lack of a safe floor. For being my least favourite fight in the game, Flora is a solid encounter. There are no downright bad bosses in MIO, and that's impressive because you normally have at least one stinker per roster. At number 17, we have Lombre, Intrusive Fertilizer, who is unrelated to the Pokemon of the same name, fought east of Haven. His main mechanics in the first half of the fight involve him charging from floor to ceiling, ceiling to floor, and side to side, firing toxic goop that you need to avoid with each movement. It's very reminiscent of the Great Conch Flies from Silksong, as you have to watch for the dust particles on the arena that denote where the boss is about to attack from. Then you just have to time your dodge to avoid the incoming dash and punish the boss accordingly. Midway through the fight, Lombre will appear in the background of the arena, slamming down multiple times and causing toxic rain to fall from the ceiling. It's the classic, move to the spot with no goop falling. The boss also gains a few extra abilities, such as when it drills into the ceiling, it can leave a goop trail that cuts the arena in half for a short while. And it now has a central melee attack that can deal damage and spread goop in an arc across the arena. It's a solid moveset, but the boss itself isn't very memorable. The whole "I'm a creature but I'm also gooped" thing is done 2 more times with Saul and friends smiley face later in the game, and those fights are way more enjoyable to me. At number 16, we have ACAT, Naka Engraver, fought in the Dwellings. Something I enjoyed about the early game of MIO is just how many times you're forced to fight regular robots that you'd normally befriend in other games. ACAT even talks to you when you enter, but still you're forced to defend yourself. He can home in on you with a spin attack that you need to dodge. He has a ground slam that sends out earth spikes across the arena floor. He has a dash attack to reposition himself, and most entertainingly, his hands can be fired at you like a projectile. They're actually magnets, so I imagine to pull them back towards him, the boss is just reversing the gravitational pull, which is so cool. Midway through, the boss gains a 3-time slam attack that sends spikes outwards from the center of the arena, and as long as you hairpin the crystals, you can stay in the air and dodge them with relative ease. He also has a second variation to his projectile attack where he throws the projectile, then warps to the other side of the arena. This stops you from punishing him and allows the boss to then throw the projectile a second time to try and hit you again. He'll then warp again before finishing the combo with a slam attack, and then I beat the fight. Honestly, I just wish there was a harder version of this battle that focused more on the magnet gimmick of his projectiles somehow. At number 15, we have Aegis, Worn-Out Sentinel, the first boss of the game. The Sentinel units were designed to protect the bases of Tomo, an important robot character in-game. Only this unit is defending an empty base. Tomo has gone missing, and yet he still goes about his programming, killing innocent robots who interfere. For a first boss, Aegis is shockingly difficult. This is mainly because you don't have any of your power-ups and must solely rely on your ability to jump and melee combo while reading the boss's tells. The boss's attacks all have a red sheen to them that's designed to help you understand when an attack is being launched, and most enemies will have a little white spark before their attacks launch as well. Dodging Aegis's Stake Slam or his various dash attacks or his downward smash are all fairly tough, especially when he buffs himself in red electricity and begins chaining all of these attacks together while warping through the arena. Without any of your abilities, not even a dodge, you really have to play it safe to avoid being punished. But the boss gives you multiple opportunities to strike back, even having a little mid-fight taunt. If only we could face this boss when we're more powerful. At number 14, we have Anseal and Targa, pristine sentinels who act as the guardians of Tomo's main lab above the Metropolis. This is a late-game encounter that you can only face after approaching Metropolis from the left side of the map, and it's a gank fight featuring the same enemy type as our previous entry. The moveset remains the same, except now you have 2 units using their attacks in conjunction with each other to catch you off guard. It's a Mantis Lord situation, one that feels extremely fair and fun to face, but I think the fight happens a bit too late into the game for me to really sink my teeth in, because I ended up defeating them really quickly with my power-ups and extra modifications, and it didn't really let me chew on the fight all that much. I wish it had been placed either in the mid-game, or that the bosses had been given a little more health so I'd have to withstand them for longer. Still, I love the through line of both of Tomo's bases being defended by these same sentinels. It's just a nice attention to detail. At number 13, we have Atmos, Weather Control Unit, fought beneath the Metropolis. While I'm devastated that it sheds the snowman look mere moments into the fight, I ended up really enjoying the battle against Atmos. This is the first fight that truly explained the importance of keeping in midair during combat, because if you don't stay in midair, you'll be stuck dealing with an icy floor that can make your movement very unpredictable. The boss can fire shards of ice at you, it can coat itself in frost and spin towards you with the intent to smack you, it can slam the ground, causing icicles to fall from the ceiling, as well as a dash attack where it spins across the whole arena before causing more icicles to fall from the ceiling. It has a giant ice gatling attack where you need to hop behind it or float to avoid damage, and midway through the fight, the boss will move to the center of the arena before firing an arena-wide icicle beam from both of its guns. This forces you to jump around it, very Clover Dancer's ultimate attack in Silksong. Its other moves all speed up as well, and you have to time those dodges as best you can while hitting the boss as much as possible to clinch the win. Just a really solid battle that doesn't do anything groundbreaking, but helps to make the player adapt to the air battle style that MIO excels in. At number 12, we have Calderon, Unyielding Furnace, fought on the west side of Metropolis. Now immediately I have to gush about the music in this fight and how all of the boss's attacks synced up to the beat. You could be the worst fight in the entire game, but if you have attack patterns that work with your boss theme, you're instantly a good fight in my eyes. The actual battle is very reminiscent of the 4th chorus from Silksong, where the boss has 4 large hands that it uses to do a variety of slam and slide attacks you need to dodge, all while hitting the circular head weak spot as you go. For the most part, you can get by with a few well-timed dodges, mainly needing to avoid the icicles falling from the ceiling. It's only at the midpoint when the boss turns on a large fan under the arena that things get tricky. The concept is still the same, you dodge the hands and hit the weak point, but the fans blow you upwards and make the dodge timings a little trickier, while when icicles fall, they'll then be relaunched back up to the ceiling, so you have to dodge those projectiles twice. It's a really neat little challenge that doesn't end up too difficult, but has enough love and care put into the encounter that I'll remember it fondly. At number 11, we have Friends, smiley face, nothing to worry about. Fought after descending into the promenade beneath the canopy. Another of those goopy bosses, Friends attempts to do a little bit of body horror as it's made up of the corpses of various robots that found themselves shut down. The dark comedy of the name, even the emoticon smiley face, just adds to the layer of eeriness here, and the fight itself ends up being pretty tricky and fairly enjoyable, even if it took me way longer to beat than most people. The boss clambers along the grated wall of the arena, which you can also climb using your tendrils, so you and the boss are immediately put on an even playing field. You can also hit the boss to recharge your energy, meaning you can theoretically climb on the arena's wall indefinitely. The boss will attempt to attack you with various contact damage attacks, it can swing into you, it can charge at you with a crazy large hitbox, it can shake off goop in circular patterns to hit you, and most deadly, it can cause strands of goop to fall from the ceiling that, if you don't destroy, will hatch into small enemies that chase you around the arena. It's a lot to keep track of, which made this fight my personal kryptonite. Combine that with the boss scooping the floor midway through, forcing you to stay airborne, and you have no excuse but to just get good at the moveset to come out on top. Most of my struggles here were due to my own hubris or my own impatience at trying to beat the boss, but that's because it's so easy to get overwhelmed that you need to end this fight as soon as you can. The longer this fight goes on, the harder it gets. That being said, it did gift us with the friends smiley face defeated screenshot, which is going to get so much meme mileage out of me, you have no idea. At number 10, we have Saul, found in the vaults. I want to start this off by explaining I am so glad that Saul is in this game, because Metroidvanias are often built on their platforming mechanics, right? So why are so many modern Metroidvanias afraid to just go all out and make a platforming gauntlet as a boss fight? Both of the Ori games did this style of boss encounter fantastically. You could argue it's what they're known for, and yet we never got any battles like this in Silksong, despite that game having an insanely robust movement system. So MIO getting a platforming challenge as a boss fight was a thank god moment for me. It would have been criminal to have the movement ability for climbing up the walls or the ability to float and hover in midair and not use it in a platforming boss encounter. It tests your ability to learn and adapt, and while the second half is insanely difficult, and I think MIO's down pogo hitbox being so small led to me missing a lot of my downward attacks to refresh my energy, I think Saul ends up being great. On top of being a fun chase, Saul's boss fight also helps to reveal the biggest secret of MIO's world design, that the right side of the map and the left side of the map are connected, that the whole world is one large circle. And it expands the way the game treats its puzzles, platforming, and exploration as a result. I did feel bad killing it at the end though. Look at that little face. It may have been about to murder me, but it's so cute. And that's also the face I make when you don't subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment to boost the algorithm. True story. At number 9, we have Vlad, exiled Sycophant, fought in the Sanctuary of the Sycophant. This is definitely one of the weirder gimmick bosses I've fought in a while. On his own, Vlad isn't a terribly difficult fight. He floats around in midair, manipulating crystals to try and impale you. Only his arena is also a giant washing machine that rotates both clockwise and anti-clockwise, and when he attacks you with his crystals, they impale themselves in the drum, so as it spins and moves, you have to be careful to avoid the attacks. And because you're in an area where your energy has been depleted by the surroundings, you're unable to use your floating ability to get by. You only regain energy when attacking the boss, and he only remains available to attack in short bursts. In other words, this is a fight that takes its time, made more difficult when midway through, the crystals begin to emit electricity and you have to dodge lightning strikes on top of the crystals themselves. This boss also has a painfully annoying run back with a jump that, if you fail, will force you to redo the whole run back all over again. On the plus side, his final attack sees him tumble into the spinning drum, doing damage to himself each time he slams into the ground, which is very entertaining to watch after being dry cleaned by him for 20 minutes. At number 8, we have Poltergeist's Dr. Halen's Experiment number 223, found in the Lower Metropolis. This was a fight I could have discovered earlier in the game, but I simply missed the entrance to their area. Once I found them though, I knew I was in love. Because the boss is the very door that you use to enter the room, a mimic that becomes sentient and forces you to fight. It has 4 attacks, a quick dash, a series of smaller dashes that span the whole room, a slam attack, and the ability to summon enemies like Hollow Knight's Collector. Midway through the fight though, the boss instead summons a second Poltergeist, and now you have to deal with the pair of them attacking in conjunction with each other. I love when they both slam up onto the ceiling, or when one of them combos a dash with a slam attack and you just barely avoid their wrath. One of them can even spew goop from the ceiling to try and block you in. But the best moment in the fight, ironically, comes when you win, because rather than die, the gates simply look awkward, like they've just been caught in the cookie jar, and they do the walk of shame back to the doorways before reverting to their original forms. It's such a silly sense of humor, but MIO has glimpses of that humor throughout the game that allow it to really shine. At number 7, we have Anra, Anti-Rat Weapon. This is the ultimate weapon of Dr. Halen, one of the pearls whose voice you need to complete your mission. She's desperate to find a solution to the vessel's problems, but doesn't wish to sacrifice herself, so you have to face her weapon Anra to bring her down. Anra has 2 phases. One where she wields a sword, complete with its own in-depth moveset, and one where she wields a gun, complete with its own in-depth moveset. The sword is all about predicting melee combos and timing your dodges to punish attacks after they finish. The gun, meanwhile, is all about careful positioning and predicting the boss's movements in advance to attack her from spots she couldn't predict. This means a lot of running along the walls with Mio's hair tendrils, and was my preferred moveset of the 2 to fight. Anra will, at points, protect herself with a yellow crystal that you need to shatter to stun her, and if you do enough damage, she'll go down. Only for Dr. Halen to get involved with the fight, grab her corpse, and start swinging it around like a mad woman on a mission. Ironically, it's this desperate phase for me though that knocks this fight down to 7th, because I didn't really enjoy how strong Halen was in terms of HP. Sure, the boss does damage to itself with the various slams, but the speed of the attacks meant I died on this phase more than I care to admit, and it got to a frustrating point. However, because I think it's completely in character with Halen to be this desperate to save her own life and continue on, I still have to respect the moxie, the drive, and the design of the robot. I can't help but wonder if it might have been how Halen looked when she was still a traveler. Ambitious until the end. At number 6, we have Debbie, Dr. Halen's collector, fought in the depths of the vaults. This robot is unaffected by the goop that is seeping into the lower part of the vessel and actually thrives in it, using it in conjunction with her many bombs to take Mio down a peg. Now, did I struggle here because I only ever found one melee upgrade until the post-game? Possibly, but struggling against a boss called Debbie, to the point of her being one of the hardest fights I faced, is incredibly funny, so I respect it. Was it also funny that I beat Debbie after fighting Dr. Halen, so it made no sense for Debbie to be protecting Nell? Also yes. I just loved how fluid Debbie's moveset was. Using bombs to blow up parts of the arena, which forced me to adapt to where I could move on the fly, was great. Dealing with her many projectile attacks was also a nice challenge, and I had to really learn her animation so I wouldn't take stupid damage. Midway through the fight, her combo game gets a lot more dangerous and her attacks are a tad faster, with more goop droplets appearing from each explosion or blast. She can also dive bomb into the goop to send a rain of poison from the ceiling that you have to position to avoid. It all comes together to create a really dynamic fight, and well worth the effort as you're saving your merchant in the process. I wouldn't change it at all, but I think it's a fight a lot of people are going to be frustrated with because of all of that extra projectile spam. Toho, you better don't! At number 5, we have Crow, Automated Reaper, the second boss I fought in the game. Now, it's important to note that Crow is an optional boss, and you can go get the dodge upgrade first before fighting him, which would make his fight significantly easier. But if difficulty was my criteria, he wouldn't be this high. Nah, I'm rating Crow in my top 5 because this is peak character design, ladies and gentlemen. A scarecrow unit that you initially find doing its job with little mechanical birds chilling atop of it, sign me up. Crow has a small but compact moveset and it will kick your ass early game. Most of its moves involve the boss teleporting into place. It has a downward slam, a 2-hit melee combo that flings itself across the arena, a projectile attack where it sends 3 your way that you need to avoid, and a swooping arc that you have to jump over which can be comboed twice. Midway into the fight, Crow activates a series of goop waterfalls on either side of the arena, boxing you in a little more, while also comboing his attacks together in faster, more dangerous intervals. Watching my footage, this would be so easy with the dodge, but I love that I conquered this fight without it because it made the encounter more memorable as a result. The moveset is perfectly fleshed out and with enough patience can be learned. Also, maybe I love the way it T-poses with power when teleporting. I'm a simple man. At number 4, we have Nadeau, Keeper of the Breath, found in the greenhouse to the right of the Pearl of the Breath. This majestic deer is one of the game's mandatory bosses and acts as a skill check for the early to mid game, and I love how many mechanics are at play here. This is a hard fight. I died to Nadeau into the double digits, but he is very surmountable. The boss has all the usual charges and swipes you'd expect from a stag, but has a few tricks up his sleeve to make things a bit tougher. Some of his attacks involve him causing white spikes to pierce from below the ground, which you have to outrun to avoid. He'll periodically shoot plants made of goop into the sky that rain down on the arena, which you also need to dodge. And midway through the fight, he has a special attack where he floods the arena, forcing you to parkour on the pink flowers while avoiding the sprouts he's raining down on you. It's a lot to keep track of, but in practice feels very rewarding to master. He always ends this special attack with a ground slam, similar to Grimm's cloak spikes in Hollow Knight. I especially love this move where its tendrils appear on the sides of the arena, smashing against each other and forcing you to avoid them vertically instead of horizontally, a much tougher order. Overall, Nadeau has one of the most complex movesets of all the mandatory boss fights, and he's only beaten out by 3 fights in the endgame that blew the rest of MIO out of the water. At number 3, we have Saul and Vin, the Last Embedders. From what I can gather, these robots were in charge of embedding travelers into pearls, which was used to keep the vessel running in its heyday. What this translates to, though, is a brutal gimmick that will make or break this boss fight for most players. MIO's health points come in the form of protective coatings. The only attack that truly damages MIO is the final attack that actually kills her. Everything up to that point is a shield, except Saul and Vin have the unique ability with their weapons to shatter protective coatings. So their first damage will strip MIO down to 1 HP, and the second damage will kill. This is the developers challenging the player to master this fight to perfection. To make this a little easier, Saul and Vin don't have the most complex moveset though. They cycle through a series of familiar moves, and it's up to you to react accordingly. It's just the price for taking a hit is absolutely brutal. I wouldn't blame anyone for choosing to ignore this fight if it's too hard, it absolutely is. Especially as with each third of the health bar, the arena begins to shrink, and for the last portion of the fight, the arena vanishes entirely, forcing you to parkour in the air until either you or the boss goes down. You want to go for damage anytime the bosses do their little taunt, flipping their swords back and forth in place. I found the slam attacks to be relatively punishable, while the attack I struggled the most with is when they throw the sword down, pick it up, and swing it immediately after. Because if Saul does an attack I need to use the dodge function for, I then can't dodge that swing from Vin when they pick up their sword. You can't luck into a win with this encounter, you really need to play safe and carefully. But there is one trick that might be able to help you. If you can get to the final phase without taking any damage, you can use the arena to your advantage, because taking damage from falling into the crystals below only does 1 HP's worth of damage. So if you see you're about to be hit by the boss and you can't recover, take the damage from the crystals instead. It'll respawn you on a small platform briefly, and it gives you more chances to fight. It's actually what got me the win on my winning run, and I didn't realize it was the case until after I'd fallen into the crystals. Saul and Vin are not for everyone, god no, but they were for me. I just think the 2 final bosses of MIO are just a much higher quality than this optional encounter. At number 2, we have Artie, Keeper of the Heart, your sister and the final boss of the regular ending. You can fight her after collecting all the other voices and talking to She. This opens Noden's Pearl, allowing you to face Artie. First off, the music in this fight is god tier, catchy and filled with charm. You really get a sense that neither of these characters want to fight, but they have no choice in the matter. Artie has an insane moveset with 2 different melee combos, one that ends in a slice and one that ends in a downward slam. She has an arena-wide dash attack, a tendril whip that attacks both sides of her, which I constantly got punished by. She can summon 5 orbs in the arena, which will attack you in the order they were summoned, best avoided by running along the walls with your tendrils. And lastly, she has a grab attack that, if it lands, will deal 2 points of damage. Don't let it land. Midway through the fight, she can electrify the floor, forcing you to climb to the ceiling to avoid her incoming 3 dash attacks in mid-air, which then brings us to her more dangerous moveset. Now she follows up many of her attacks like the downward slams, she can fire electrical blasts in groups of 3, and she can warp around the arena so only certain attacks are actually punishable. You have to keep track of all her moves to know what she's doing and respond accordingly, which was tough for me. It was only after beating the game's normal ending though that I realized I'd only ever found one melee upgrade for my character, so I was a little underleveled in terms of strength. That explains why it took me so long to win. She was easily my favourite fight in the game, even down to that dramatic final moment where they're both affected by the heart's tremors one last time, and then you're forced to strike her down. That was until I reached the library and discovered... At number 1, we have She, Keeper of the Spine, the true final boss fought in the specimen storage room of the library. Your goal in MIO is to fix the heart of the vessel, but your reasoning is what determines your ending. Doing the normal ending keeps the vessel floating through space, but going for the true ending, you can choose to allow the vessel to fulfill its original mission, to repopulate a new planet and bring life. Only She, a servant of the spine, is against this. To complete this mission would mean to end the lives of all the robots aboard the vessel, and yet everyone is already on life support, their world was dying and there was nothing left to be done, it has to end. She's fight is insane. His moveset is vast and intricate, he can slam down and create energy in various pillars and rings, he can shoot gigantic lasers that coat the arena you have to dodge with your abilities, he can flourish beneath the platform to try and smack you, and that's just the start of the fight. He causes the arena to darken and cycles through a series of attacks, one of which he tries to ram into you, which you have to dodge and then jump to avoid his underhanded sweep, one where he summons a series of lasers and you need to float in the safe spot to avoid them, and one where he creates crystals that will target you with projectiles which you can actually destroy to make your life easier. After this, She will appear and do one of 2 attacks, either a series of melee slams and dashes that I found brutal to predict, or a giant laser attack that is extremely easy to predict. The attack that he doesn't use out of those 2, he'll then break out near the end of the fight instead. The boss also pulls the arty trick of electrifying the floor and sending projectile lasers your way, but again, you can destroy these crystals if you're quick enough, making the transition a little bit easier. You'll know you're near the end when the boss curls up and fires beams from around him, followed by a giant energy ring. This is when She breaks out his final moves, a ton of slams followed by energy blasts that you need to avoid in various configurations, aimed to chip away at your health bit by bit. And his laser attack now crosses the arena twice. This was the most intense fight in the game for me, and by the time I finished him off, I felt like I'd ran the gauntlet. But it was so satisfying and worth the effort. I didn't think a mechanical, Radiance-like battle was what was waiting for me on the true ending path, but I'm certainly not complaining. She is the best fight in MIO Memories in Orbit, and this game as a whole was just a joy from start to finish. If you like Metroidvanias, you will love MIO Memories in Orbit. And that's my list. I want to give a quick shout out to the MIO Memories in Orbit developers, as I was provided with a code. I did apply for it, they gave me one, I got to play the game free of charge, I just want to say that, but I'm not being paid to do anything, don't worry about that. I think this game is fantastic, I think it is so worth everybody's time, and I think you guys should definitely play it. So be sure to parry that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. I want to give a shout out to my YouTube channel members for supporting me for another month, you guys are amazing. You get a shout out in the description at the end of the video, and you get access to my Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2 SL1 runs. Thank you so much, everyone. If you guys want to support me, I have a Twitch, I have a Blue Sky, and I stream every week here on YouTube, so if you want to say hi, I'm always around. I might even be streaming right now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Adios.